Hi, it's Tony from CassetteComeback.com, and today we're going to look at a very important cassette, possibly the most important line of cassettes in the world. We're going to look at the Hypersonic C90 as used on Guardians of the Galaxy. Only kidding, we're not going to be looking at that at all. We're going to be looking at this, the amazing, the fantastic, the well-loved TDK D. Now, the D, if I want to try and put an analogy to this, I think you can relate everything back to cars. The TDK D is like the mid-range Ford. In Europe, I'm talking about the Escort that turned into the Focus. Something that was affordable and massive selling, but it was massive selling because it was good. You can't be massive selling if you're not any good. They're everywhere, they're ubiquitous, but they were backed up with performance. And over time, they evolved and they got better. And now, looking back, vintage versions are now special and treasured because not only are they part of the nostalgia of a lot of people's cassettes lives, but they're also something which is a sign of the times that they came from. So, you know, you think like, how much are Escort Mexico's going for now? How much are Focus RS is going for now? But they've always remained at the cutting edge right until the end. So that's why I sort of think of them this way. They are the biggest selling cassette in the world, I believe. I don't think the SA sold more. And everyone at some point in the cassette lives will have used these and know them. So, you know, I'm from Europe, so don't, you know, point out that the American versions are there because there are slight variances. But there was an earlier version than this, but it hasn't arrived in time for this video. And I wanted to do this video, which is just plain red with a gold circle. In fact, I'll put a picture of it here. Bing, there we go. But we're going to go from here. So we've got this one, which is the 72 to 77, 78-ish. And then we've got this one that came next, the 79 version. Very hard to find these with untorn wrappers. These are very fragile wrappers. All the 79 series TDK wrappers are pretty fragile now, but there we go. Enjoy excellent sound performance with any cassette recorder. Yes, good old D's. And then we went on from that one to the 1982 version. Again, don't need to look at the backs of this, but we went to 82. And then the version which came after the 82, we started to go clear, which is the 86 version. Show the back there for you if you want to pause it and read it. It's up to you. I'm not going to go through them, but went to 86. And then after, now I will show this. This is the American version from 86, which hadn't gone to clear shell at this time. But, and they're printed upside down. D, the dynamic cassette. Well, that was the American version. And then we went to 88, which now the sort of smoke brown clear shell had become what the TDK D had come in. What a hell of a year, 88, best year for TDK in my book. I mean, the ARX started coming there, but... And then we went to the 1990. This is the one I remember lots of. When I think of a D, normally it's this in this wrapper that pops into my head. Oops. And then we start coming to the end. We go into the 90s. And then we have the final version in Europe, which was this one. Later ones had Imation Life on Record on them. But basically, this is where it ended. So these are all the European Ds that I've got. So let me just move these away. Because they are Ds, you know, I got unwrapped one, so I don't need to do any real unwrapping today. So yeah, first one, it looked like pretty much every other cassette at the time, just a plain white shell, which is the kind you'd see on pre-recorded as well. And here it is. Ah, right. bear with me 1 second, jump cut. I'm back. I stagger myself because I really do need one of these for today, because we're going to do more than just talk about the aesthetics and all that. We're going to do some comparing and contrasting. So if we look at this D tape, it's pretty matte, it's pretty light brown. It is pretty much like any usable cassette from this time would be. You know, there was from this time, you know, 72, 77, a lot of Type 0, but this isn't particularly well calendared or shiny, but it is what it is. And then we move on a bit to the 79 version. Again, it's more of an evolution than a revolution. The shell's gone slightly grey, but we've still got this black and red stripage on it. And again, the tape in this one, not particularly well calendared or shiny, and just a very milky brown, as was part of the course. Then we move on to 82. Now it's gone black, and I think this is, you know, everyone's got the favourites, but this is a special D, this. I remember when I first recorded onto one of these, it was used, it's 1982 D, cheap tape, it's like, what am I expecting? And there was no way that it should have performed like it did, because these are really great performers. But again, the tape, I don't know, if you look at the one that came before it, they look pretty much the same. There's no real difference from what I can see. Same level of calendaring. Maybe the 82 is a bit more calendared, but there's not a massive difference in it. So then we go to the 86. Now the 86, for me, is my favourite all-round D. I mean, I really like this shell. This shell's great. It's got lots of texture on it, but it feels substantial and heavy. I like the simple sticker. In fact, let's look at its compatriot here, the 86HF, which you all know that I love. Who's copying who? Because they're very much sort of the same design school. I like the little orange rollers in the Sony. You know, if they'd been red rollers in this to match the red clips, yeah, they would look fantastic. But they're from the same school here. But all round, I think the 86 is probably my favourite D. And if we look at the tape now, the tape is going a bit darker, but it's getting shinier. You know, you compare the 82 to the 88, it is slightly darker, but it is certainly better calendared. We move on to the 88. The 88 basically, from what I can see, is the same shell as the 86, but it's got different printing on it. Instead of having the sticker, it's directly printed on it. I think that looks a bit cheaper. I like the sticker on the D. I really like that. It just sets it off. It just looks semi-premium for an entry-level cassette. This all clear with the gold writing, it looks less premium. I do like the 88 hubs though, but again, the tape in this is a bit darker still. I don't know if you can see it, you can, but it's a bit darker still. It gets darker as time goes on with the D, but it never looks black as such. And so after that, I haven't got any of these two that are open, so strangely enough, so we're going to open a couple of these. You've seen the back already, so don't mind that I never showed you the back. So we go down to this is, I think, I don't know if this is the, no, I've missed one out, haven't I? I've missed one out, bear with me. We will come back to this one and this one. I've missed one out because we've got to go to the 1990, which is this one, which is, like I say, the one when I think of Ds, this is the one which pops in my head the most, because I don't know, I just remember this version of the D, and when people say TDK D, this is a version that pops in my head. So the shell has changed again, and this is a pretty classic TDK D shell though. It's still decent, but it's getting thinner. It's if you rattle this one and do this the same way, it's a lot louder. It doesn't feel as thick, and it doesn't feel as secure. But it's still a relatively attractive looking tape. It doesn't look like, I say, like a Type 0. But again, the tape in this lovely and smooth and brown and dark. Then we come on to the, I think this is the 90. Is it 92 or 95? I forget off the top of my head. But again, it's the same shell as the 90, just with different printing, but essentially they look pretty much the same. Oh, that's got a nice blue. Oh, it's in that. It's got a really nice blue pad in that one, whereas that one's traditional. But now you see the tape here. Look at this. This is getting very dark. I mean, just as a reference, let's take the 72 and that one. Very different tape, very different tape. This is getting nice and dark, even compared to the 90 which come before it. It's getting even darker, more chocolate brown. And then we come to the last of the line. And again, just as a frame of reference, right, if we take this and the 1990, from what I can see, the shells are basically the same, except the last of the line are not screwed, the welded shells. But the shell design's the same, the hubs are the same. This one doesn't have the metal protector shield underneath it, but the hubs are pretty much the same and the shell is just different printing. But again, if we look at the tape in this is a lovely dark rich brown. Now I'm going to do something a bit different on this. I'm going to do something which well, I'll be frank with you, it's not something I've ever bothered about doing before, and people have asked, and it's not something I've been interested in, but I'm nothing if not a progressive channel. So what we're going to do is, we're going to have a very boring segment now that you might want to skip on, because you know me, I'm all about the joy, the aesthetics, the actual tangibles about the hobby, as opposed to the science. But just to show, I'm going to do some analysis on these Ds. I'm going to put them in a deck. I'm going to fire up Audio Tester 3, which I paid for a legit copy of, and we're going to do some sweeps on this and see how these cassettes perform with sweep analysis, to see basically in a visual way the changes between formulations over the years, and to compare and contrast. And then we're going to pick some of my favourites, and we're going to have a list of how good they are. And the favourites for me, which I want to do on this, I'm going to do the 82, I'm going to do the 86, and then I'm going to do the last one. Because these ones I've already touched in other videos. The 88 and 86 aren't massively different in my book, and the 90 isn't massively different either. So yeah, 82, 86, and the last of the line. So let's go and get bored now, look at some graphs, and listen to some test tones. Okay, so before we start on this isn't something I've ever done before. I've done some reading on it. It's not something I'm really bothered about, because to me, what bothers about cassettes is how they look and how they sound. And I've got these brilliant little measuring devices on the side of my head called my ears, and that's what I use to determine tapes. But I'm going to go somewhere with this, so stick with me. Now, I know a lot of you will take the opportunity to point out why I've got this completely wrong, and you'll want to let me know this. Fine. Do it nicely, say, hi Tony, yeah, what you should have done is blah, what you should have done is blah. Now I'll take this on board, thank you graciously, and use it next time. You go, you are stupid, you know nothing, why are you doing it? Then I'm going to ignore you. It's simple. But I think I've got this pretty sussed. I mean, I'm a bit of a dickhead, but I'm not a complete dickhead. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to play a 1000 hertz, i.e. 1 megahertz test tone through the CR7, so that we can gauge what levels this are at. Now I know people have said this should be done at minus 25 dB for this sweep, and I'm trying to prove something here. So, and I'm not getting, the correlation. The dB here is dBFS. That's different to what the deck's using, so they look different. But if I put a 1000 hertz tone through it, yeah, we can see that it's peaking at like minus 3 here. But even on the CR7, it's about plus 5. And that's what I'm going off. I'm going to record these at plus 5, which is hot for a ferric, but there's a reason. So, but we can see here, it's at about minus 3, and it's all aligned. So we'll stop there. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do like the baseline, so to speak. So if I go to the sweep now, we're going to get a baseline of what the deck looks like, i.e. its frequency sweep response, just with it going in and out. And the way this is set up is I have this Behringer USB sound card. Don't start going, no, you need a 1993 hard to find sound card with special mod. It seems to work properly, okay? Modern device, good DACs in these, great value for money. The line out of the deck is going to the line in of the Behringer, and the line in of the Behringer is going to the line out of the deck. So we've got a loop. So what we're going to do now is just do this sweep, which you're not going to hear anything until at least about 50 hertz. And then once it's done this sweep, all the way up to 20 kilohertz, we'll be able to see and have a baseline for what the actual deck itself does if you take cassettes out of the equation. I'm going to turn this down a bit because this is going to boom a bit in the audio. So as you can see, very flat and linear response curve here, which is what you'd expect. Oh, where does your hearing stop? Still going. Now it's gone for me. It went there. About 15 kilohertz, it disappeared. And as you see, it gets about 20, then it drops off a cliff. So that's our baseline. So the first tape we're going to take is the very first, well, the earliest I've got here, this is the 72D. So let's put that in here. Get it calibrated up. Now let's let it calibrate. I'm going to move this down now because we're going to on the next curve. Okay, it's calibrated. So again, this is at plus 5. Okay, let's see how this 1972D performs to this curve sweep. Okay, it's already down. Okay, so that's how the 72D performs. Pretty linear until we get to about 3 kilohertz, and it starts tailing off a bit and sloping more. So the next frame of reference, because we don't want to be here all day doing this, is the 1988D. Let's get to calibrate that up. Move this down to the next one. Okay, we're good to go. Let's fire it off and start the sweep. already seems to be responding better. The 72. You bored yet? That's why I don't like doing these, they're boring. Okay, so what can we conclude there? It looks like it responds slightly better because the signal is higher for more of the time. It's got the same curve here at the end as it sort of curves off at the same sort of time, but it does have more signal, but it has substantially more around what's that, 17 kilohertz, which no one can hear. But yeah, it looks consistent. So let's look at the last of the line D now and see how that performs. Okay, let's see. Change this to the next one. Okay, let's go. You recognise these graphs? These are like little things that they put on the back of the wrappers sometimes to show the frequency response. We're making them real time, boys and girls. Sounds like my kids are having fun in the background downstairs. God bless them in this lockdown. You can get your kids laughing in lockdown. You're doing something right. Poor buggers. Anyway. So that's the last of the line D. Now, bear with me a second because I always get this wrong. It's not easy to zoom in this damn thing. I want to zoom in on a certain bit. Ugh, you know, I just wish you could drag and click on this, but you can't. Lost it completely now. Ugh. You know, I just wish you could just highlight something and it would just show it. Oh, you know something. Like I said, I am not good with this program. I'm trying to get it so that I can zoom in on this. See, why does it go from 100? You click that, it goes to minus 100. Why would you want to do that? Sorry, I'm messing around. Like I said, not the world's easiest program to use. There we go. This is what I want to do, but I want to get this a bit bigger. There we go. No, come back. Back to me. Come back to me. I might just have to edit this out because it's annoying the hell out of me, and I'm using the damn thing. Here we go. This might be more what I wanted to look at. Yeah, there we go. It's a bit more zoomed in a much harder way of doing it. But as we can see, the point I'm making here, everyone says at the late Ds, the tape went off. It's not as good tape. But if you look at the 88, where a lot of people say, you know, so the pinnacle of the D, it's pretty much the same. There's not a massive difference there. The tape is consistent, at least when it comes to this. My argument is it's the shells that got worse, not the tape over the years. But it's there. It's certainly better than the 72. But I'll tell you what, let's throw something else into the mix then, just as a... let's put an MAXG in there. Let's see how an MAXG performs in this. Just to throw it in, we're gonna overwrite the baseline of the deck. We're gonna overwrite that with an MAXG, just to see how that performs. Okay, let's go. Oh, look at that. And the tones I can actually hear is not a million miles away, and it's actually lower than the late D. Oh, it's fallen off a cliff now, isn't it? You see that, it starts at low frequencies, it's very good at low frequencies. We get to the mids, it's not massively different, and it starts to tail off compared to the D. That's not quite what I was expecting to see, and I know there's nothing wrong with the deck because of the linear response, but I guess what we could take away here is that the metal is significantly better at frequencies that I personally can't hear. So if we take this part out of the equation, the D actually looks like it's doing a better job in the mids up to about 10 kilohertz. From like 500 hertz to 10 kilohertz, the D seems to be responding better than the MXG. What does that say? It says what I've always thought. I mean, hiss is one thing, signal response, who knows? But maybe I've got this all wrong. But I thought that was worth maybe a few minutes to look at just to show you, the D has always been consistent and the late Ds are the same sort of tape formulation as the classic Ds, which everyone loves from the 80s. So, yeah, there we go. And the MXG didn't do a massively great performance there, did it? I'm not pleased with that. Just bear with me a second. Let's stop this. Let's see if it's my MXG. Let me just go into my drawer of magic goodness here. Excuse me a second. Right, let's really turn up the guns. Let's get a Metal Master in. Let's see if that performs any better than the MXG. I'm not pleased with that MXG performance. Bear with me. Or maybe that's how it should be. I don't know. I don't care. I only go off with what I, hear with my ears. And looking at this, I say, oh, the MXG is rubbish. So before I put it in there, the MXG is going to sound better because I've seen this graph which says it sounds worse. But it doesn't. An MXG does sound significantly better than a D. But let's try this again. Okay, so this is with the Sony Metal Master. And it'll overwrite the MXG results. Let's have a look. Yeah, this is tailing off as well, like the MXG did. Yeah, so not a million miles away from what the MXG did. So what we're concluding here is that metals are brilliant at frequencies that most of us can't hear, but in the mid-range, the main bit from like 100 hertz to about 5 kilohertz, the ferric D has better signal response at plus 5 dB in a NAC. I mean, that's not a great shocker for the world because it's a very specific experiment. But looking at this, the late D seems to respond better to signals than metals do. But hey, maybe that's just me. But, you know, I don't know what to conclude on this one properly. But this isn't taking into account distortion and wow and flutter and all that. But on pure signal reproduction, the D looks better to me. Shock horror. Tell me where I'm going wrong here, please. Well, since the CR7's been doing such a great job today, might as well use it to do what the Ds do best, just sound musical and great regardless of measurements. So let's start with the 1982, and the first time I recorded on one of these, when I came back to cassettes, I was stunned. It's like, how can something this old sound this good? This is a great, great D. Now, while this calibrates up, the tune I'm going to be using today is one that I created for my other channel, Retro Vega, and it's a cover of a loading tune from Ocean Software, and it's commonly known as Ocean Loader 4, and I've done a synthesizer cover of it. Please don't ask me for a copy of this because I didn't write the tune and I don't want to go through all the hassle of licensing copies and PRS and all that. So it's just something I created for me, but I'm going to use it today. I'm going to play like a minute and a bit of it over the 3 tapes just so we get a good grip of how good these tapes sound. So if I just rewind that now, let's have a listen to Ocean Loader 4 and the 1982 D. Would help if I put this into record mode, really, wouldn't it? Yes. There we go. And we'll stop that one there. Okay, there were some dropouts there, but this wasn't new when I got it. This is an old tape, you know, this is knocking on for 40 years old. Maybe the hi-hats weren't as crisp, but it's a 40-year-old entry-level tape. It's as simple as that, and that still sounded great. This is a very special tape. I love the 82D. The fresh ones out of the wrapper are brilliant. You know, forgive this for having a bit of a hard life. So now we're going to go to my favourite all-time round D, which is the 86. Let's get this one calibrated up. A little bit squeaky there on the old transport, but looks like we're going to go through Ocean Loader 1.5 times. So, okay, we're good to go. Let's get it recording and listen to the next bit. Yeah, that's lovely. Like I say, this is my all-round favourite D for looks, for performance. Gotta say, at the time, I was buying Max LURs instead of these because these seemed a bit more expensive. These seemed a bit more premium, and I just bought Max LURs. But if I had my time again, I'd certainly be checking these out. But right now, these are my favourite D of the lot. So let's go now to the last of the line D. And like I say, prove that the tape, you know, at least as far as signal goes, isn't massively different from the 88. It's just the slightly worse shell. Well, quite a bit worse shell, but let's get that calibrated up again. Okay, goody gumdrops. Okay, let's listen to the first part of Ocean Loader 4 again. I've said it before and I'll say it again. As the D got on, the shells got worse, but the tape didn't. That, I think, is the best sounding of the three. Maybe it's because it's a newer one, maybe it's because it's fresher. But that, combined with what we saw in the graphing, compared to a metal, this deserves its status as being a legend, and certainly one of the tapes that I don't think anyone can say a bad thing against.
The truth.
Affordable, reliable, great performing. This range of cassettes deserves their legendary status. This range of cassettes was the gateway drug for a lot of us because they were affordable, looked great and sounded great, and consistently were over all the generations. As we've seen, the formulations changed, but they were always good. The looks changed, but even the last of the line with the welded shell, it still doesn't look like a Type 0. It still has a lovely cool look about it. There's not a lot more to say. A lot of people come to me and they say, oh, what do you recommend for this? What do you recommend for that? I get it through my web store all the time. And honestly, depending on what they want to do, if they're not looking to get Type 2s or metals or anything, I don't know their deck, I don't know the condition, I don't know what they really want to do with the tape, I recommend a D. There's a reason. This will have been what most Japanese decks were biased to internally, unless it was Sony, of course. But all I know is that you can throw this hardy little tape in any deck and it will perform. It's as simple as that. And that's why I think most of us will always love the D. So thanks for watching. Bit different today, but please like and subscribe. Stay safe out there. It's still, I know I'm dating the videos by saying this, but I think of them more as an annal of the time, you know, a snapshot of what was going on in the world at the time rather than being consistently up to date. I mean, it's cassettes. These are not up to date right now, so it doesn't matter. But stay safe out there. We're going to get through this, and like I said on my radio show, if you haven't listened to it, the upside of this is we are going to have one hell of a party. This is going to turn into the ultimate party planet when we get out of this lockdown and we're allowed to enjoy ourselves again. In the meantime, I'll still try and crank out as many videos as I can. But stay safe out there. Please like and subscribe. And I'll see you next time. Now go and do some more happy taping. Bye bye.